Story 1, the valedictorian works for Tesla, and the salutatorian is now a Buddhist monk in Tibet. The monk graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology as an engineer, went to work in Tibet for a project, and then never left. Story 2. He taught himself Mandarin and moved to China for reasons unknown. He developed a heart condition and had to be flown back to the United States for medical treatment. I believe he is back in China now. I saw him at a college party with a blunt and a cigarette in one hand and a beer in the other. He was your typical glasses-wearing, antisocial nerd in high school, but he has always been a quality human being. I was shocked to see him at the party. Story 3. High school class of 1962. Our valedictorian died in Vietnam around 1964. I first heard about it around 2012, so the year may be off. Story 4. He was 2 years younger than the rest of us, having skipped 2 grades. He was the first chair violinist, enrolled in the International Baccalaureate program, taking advanced placement courses, incredibly intelligent, and an all-around nice guy despite his demanding extracurricular activities and advanced classes. He had a full scholarship to any university due to his high level of intelligence. Now, he is a sports writer and appears to be happier than ever. Edit. I am getting a lot of questions about whether he is a sports writer that people know. It seems the sports writer industry attracts talented young individuals. Story 5. He became a pharmacist, married a model, had a couple of kids, and bought a big house in our hometown. Then he got caught writing fake prescriptions for his friends, lost his license, went through a divorce, and his wife took the kids. I'm told he can be found at the local bar most nights trying to escape reality. Life can take some crazy turns, right? Story 6. He became homeless and jumped from a building 6 years ago. After his death, his mother sent me his Quora accounts where he posted thousands of times in 3 languages. It was wonderful to read. He was very intelligent but a broken man. I miss you, Pierre. Story 7. They took their own lives by jumping in front of a truck after receiving a failing grade from a professor who disliked their attendance at Stanford. Story 8. The student in my class received a full scholarship to Harvard. He completed an internship his first summer at Intel and was tragically killed by a drunk driver a few weeks after arriving in California. I couldn't believe it when it happened 25 years ago, and I still can't. Story 9. I graduated at the top of my class and secured a job at Google. Unfortunately, I had a tragic accident while hiking last summer when I walked off a cliff. I still don't understand how it happened. Story 10. She was on the dean's list every year in computer science, aced every test, and performed better than her peers academically. She currently works as a secretary for a lawyer. Although she genuinely disliked programming, her teachers encouraged her to pursue computer science to increase female representation in technology. I believe she could have used her degree more effectively elsewhere, but she had a negative mindset and a self-defeating attitude. Story 11. They experienced a nervous breakdown and became psychotic, not due to drugs. He had Asperger's syndrome, was the smartest person I have ever met, and stress likely contributed significantly to a pre-existing condition. Story 12. He went to Yale and joined the Reserve Officers Training Corps. After graduating, he became an Army Ranger and served in Afghanistan. When he left the Army, he joined a seminary and became a priest. Story 13. He worked for corporations as an IT professional for a decade, then left to start his own IT consulting company. I believe he is doing well and has retired early. Story 14. Guy was the school's greatest achiever in studies and its top athlete, breaking all the records. He went to Cambridge and earned a doctorate in physics. He eventually became a priest and now lives in a small village in the north. Story 15. I attended a prestigious engineering school. I secured an excellent job in engineering. I later decided to leave that job and opened a couple of coffee shops. Story 16. He works for our state Supreme Court. As I understand his job, he conducts a mix of legal research for the judges and trains new clerks. Story 17. He scored an almost perfect score in the Chinese Gaokao, ranking nearly in the top 20 in the country. He is now a popular streamer for brony material on Asian platforms. I believe he does this full-time and has a few 100,000 followers. He was a really lovely guy, and I'm happy he's doing what makes him happy. Keep going. Story 18. Harvard for college and Johns Hopkins for medical school. She became a doctor and married another doctor. She may have had a child. She is very smart, so she deleted her social media accounts a long time ago. We haven't spoken in at least 20 years, but I still remember her fondly when I think of the chaos of adolescence. Story 19. Graduated high school at 14, received a degree in aerospace engineering by 18, and worked for Boeing the last time I checked. He was always a nice kid and was picked on. I'm glad I was nice to him back then. Story 20. I went to grade school with a kid whose initials were SM. His mom was a teacher, so SM was very intelligent. He often worked on advanced projects or extra credit. During recess, he would consistently run laps for the mileage club instead of playing with the other kids. Fast forward, SM received a full scholarship to Cornell University for running track. I'm not sure what he was studying, but he ended up taking drugs with his girlfriend, having a breakdown, and running around campus half naked. He tackled at least one female and threatened to assault her, which resulted in his arrest. Story 21. I used to spend time with honor students in college. It's difficult to determine who was the smartest. They were all bright, and I often felt inadequate. The one I dated ended up going to Europe and is now the chief executive officer of a science company. Another became an award-winning professor. His wife, who was also an honors student, is now a school psychologist. One particularly notable student came to me for advice. She was being pressured by a school to attend graduate school there, with claims that she was capable of making significant contributions to the field. She expressed her desire to become a school psychologist, but she faced rude comments suggesting she only wanted to avoid research to stay with her husband. Her true passion was in school psychology and working with children. I encouraged her to ignore the negativity and follow her heart. I'm glad she considered my advice. They are both incredibly happy. Story 22. He had a full scholarship to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but apparently withdrew his acceptance over the summer to open an art gallery. The last I heard, it was moderately successful. Story 23. I'm not doing anything spectacular. I spent my life being told I was smart and getting high test scores. Then I entered the real world and realized that things require actual effort, and I have been playing catch-up ever since. Story 24. Our valedictorian planned to attend medical school to specialize in vision science, inspired by a family member with a degenerative eye condition that left them mostly blind. She wanted to help prevent others from experiencing the difficulties she witnessed firsthand with her family. She married someone she met in church and is now an anti-medicine, anti-science traditional wife. Story 25. He killed his mother by choking her to death. His father was out of town but saw it on the house security camera and called the police. They found her body in the woods behind the house. He was sentenced to life in prison and spent 3 years before being transferred to a mental hospital. He is to remain there for the rest of his sentence. He was a nice guy, well-mannered, and very serious about his education. So you can imagine my reaction to the news. He was one of my first friends at that school. Story 26. He graduated from West Point and completed 2 tours in Iraq, leaving as a major. Now he is a doctor. Both of his sons graduated from West Point and are now captains in the Army. Story 27. The valedictorian of our high school was someone no one ever saw or heard of. I'm sure the school administration did everything in their power to protect her from us so that we didn't influence her negatively. I hope she is out there somewhere saving a life or making life better for others. Story 28. That would be me. I skipped a year late in high school and won the final year mathematics, physics, and chemistry prizes. I was the only one in my year to take double pure mathematics. I earned a good engineering degree, started working in submarine engineering, then military training simulators. I moved to Europe and got a job designing wind turbines, then in solar energy, and now in networking. Right now, I am sitting next to my wife in the hospital waiting for our 4th child to be born. Life is not too bad, all things considered. Story 29. She got accepted into an Ivy League school, became pregnant during her first semester, returned, and attended a technical school to become a pastry chef. Last I heard, she teaches painting. I think her home life before college was very restrictive, so when she moved away, she embraced a more indulgent lifestyle. I always respected her in school and thought she would become a doctor or lawyer. In general, my high school produced many blue-collar workers and some middle management individuals. Story 30. He is currently the director of medical student education in psychiatry at a major U.S. teaching hospital. He holds an MD and a PhD. He is a brilliant individual and a wonderful person. Story 31. Our valedictorian is an orthopedic surgeon. He married our salutatorian, who is a stay-at-home mother. Story 32. I received a full scholarship to study physics at the California Institute of Technology, which is even more impressive considering my high school is in India. I went on to complete my PhD at Princeton University and am now a professor of physics at a top university in the United States. Even back in high school, both students and teachers were convinced I would win a Nobel Prize someday, and I may well achieve that. Story 33. He ended up getting an internship with BMW in England. Last I heard, he has been doing quite well. He was always a cool, down-to-earth person, so I wish him the best. Story 34. Her parents in Western Australia in the 1980s had very narrow, old-fashioned ideas about women's roles in society. She was never encouraged to complete high school or attend university. Instead, her options were to get married and have children, or to attend nursing or secretarial school. With no prospects of marriage at the age of 15, she ended up in secretarial school. She held a series of poorly paid office jobs throughout her life, except for a 5-year stint working for fashion designers, beating fancy dresses, which was also poorly paid. It is absolutely tragic. She could have done anything. She was not only at the top of her year, but also in the top 10% in state testing. Her sister married young, much to their parents' joy, but it turned out to be an unmitigated disaster and ended in divorce. Story 35. He left school at 18 to work for the British Broadcasting Corporation for a year, which then paid for him to attend Cambridge University to pursue a fully funded degree with a decent salary. After about 10 years at the BBC, he moved to Amazon and became a senior engineer. He was diagnosed with cancer at around 38 and passed away within a year. Story 36. Our valedictorian died the day after graduation due to a ruptured appendix. He was one of the most talented people I had ever met. Rest in peace, John Albert Sierra. Story 37. The smartest guy in my class was also the school's biggest drug dealer. The principal knew what he was doing but was always outsmarted. He became a surgeon. Story 38. Graduated at 11 from high school, dropped out of college at 13, and never applied my intelligence. Story 39. Joined the military and rose through the ranks, retiring as a colonel. He is highly decorated for valor in combat in Iraq and holds a PhD. He is a published author and has been a speaker at Ivy League universities. He served on the Joint Chiefs of Staff Council of Colonels and is now a professor of military history. He is often photographed with presidents, wearing all his ribbons. Story 40. Just looked her up. She has a Doctor of Philosophy in Astrophysics, worked for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration for a while, then completed a 7-year Buddhism retreat and is now a Buddhist teacher who integrates the latest in neuroscience with trauma resilience, non-dual meditation, and the aware ego process in her coaching practice. Story 41. I was the valedictorian in 2003 and went to a prestigious school, but I returned home after a year due to financial and family issues. I continued my engineering degree but fell into drinking after my brother died. Suspected suicide but unable to confirm. I decided to leave that environment and joined the Army, completing 3 deployments before returning home and getting married. I went back to college and earned a degree in criminal justice, working in community corrections for 11 years and eventually becoming an administrator supervising an entire department. 2 years ago, we moved because my wife wanted to be in her home state near family. Now, I do warranty work on newly built homes, a job I obtained through a friend from the Army. I miss the correctional side of helping people in my hometown, but I earn more now, my wife is happier, and our 7-year-old is thriving. Life has thrown some challenges our way, but we're happy and healthy. Story 42. The smartest kid in my class was Mark. He started an internet company called Facebook. He didn't connect with peak Jenny McIntyre like I did. Story 43. A friend of mine was at the top of our class, and I was second. We both attended the same university and earned master's degrees. We also work for non-governmental organizations now, with him in health advocacy and me in environmental conservation. I keep in touch periodically, and we are both quite content. Story 44. I had a brilliant classmate who excelled in every subject, from science to the arts. He effortlessly understood and performed well in all his classes. He could read through a dense textbook and absorb everything as if it were a children's book. He would read literature and produce impressive first drafts that were meticulously polished and filled with clever rhetoric. He attended a top 10 university in the United States for biology and graduated at the top of his class. Afterward, he began writing. Now, he is working for Stephen Colbert, creating content for a show. Story 45. It could be said that there was one student who graduated at the top of the class. I doubt anyone knows what happened to him because he was arrogant and viewed everyone else as inferior. I graduated second in my class, and I am currently anxious and distracted. Story 46. I was voted most likely to become a billionaire in school because I was considered the smartest. Although I am academically gifted, I don't feel very intelligent socially, so I have often considered myself somewhat lacking in that area. I graduated at the top of my class at the University of California, Berkeley, and I am currently completing my doctorate in mathematics at a well-known university. I do not plan to become a billionaire through my studies. I pursue mathematics purely out of passion. I was fortunate with some investments during the pandemic and am already retired. Once I finish my academic pursuits, I will likely travel around the world. Story 47. The girl was on her way to medical school and had everything in place to be free of her religious parents. She came out during her speech to the entire school about her girlfriend and to her parents. She was accepted to medical school straight out of high school through a special program. I am sure she is almost a doctor, if she is not one already. Story 48. She became a waitress in a pub in her university town. She had a free ride and graduated from university. She chose to live a stress-free life waiting tables. Story 49. Most of the highly intelligent students in my class burned out or took their own lives. The most successful people in our society are usually hardworking and of average to moderate intelligence. You do not want to be so smart that you tire of the game before the music stops and everyone needs to take a seat. Story 50. He is an extremely intelligent individual who achieved nearly perfect grades in all his classes. He spent his days socializing with popular peers and generally came across as a great person. However, he did not participate in extracurricular activities during school. He received a full scholarship to the University of Southern California. After completing a master's degree in aerospace engineering, he pursued a doctorate in physics. Currently, he holds a high-ranking position at Lockheed Martin, but is unable to disclose details about his work. Story 51. PhD in astrophysics. Working on getting humans to Mars in 2030. We are all proud of her. She was also homecoming queen in her senior year of high school. Story 52. One attended Ivy League colleges and is a lawyer in New York City. Another went to a state college for engineering and works at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. A different individual stopped caring about school after experiencing a relationship, and he has been working at a grocery store after getting married at 18 and divorced at 19. Story 53. The individual developed an earthquake detection system that provided people with a few seconds to prepare before the ground began shaking. At the age of 16, he pursued studies to become a librarian and eventually found himself living on a farm, away from society. Story 54. Tenured mathematics professor. He received his PhD in mathematics at 26, which is quite young to complete the program. During one summer in his undergraduate studies, he worked for the National Security Agency in cryptography. A team of 6 Federal Bureau of Investigation agents came to our college, which had about 1,400 students, to conduct a background check. It was quite tense to be interviewed by the FBI at 19, under the influence, while trying not to stare at the ceiling tile where he had hidden his stash. Not a great situation. Story 55. I don't know. No one knows. She didn't have any friends during school. She wasn't bullied or anything, but every time someone asked her if she wanted to hang out, she asked if her mom could come as well. She had a very strange relationship with her mom, but I think she is studying something in Vienna. She was also the one who made fun of the people that didn't have top grades. However, my friend group and I started a business after our first year of college and are now living a very happy, stress-free life. That's what happens when you focus on yourself instead of what others are grading you. Story 56. She became a highly successful plastic surgeon. She was a strong, rockabilly punk girl. I always thought she was cool. Story 57. The valedictorian is a wife and mother of 3 children, and she is thriving in life. She is one of my friends and remains as kind as she was 17 years ago when we graduated. The salutatorian was always difficult to deal with, so I did not maintain contact with him. I'm sure he is also doing well in life, though. Story 58. Graduated at the top of my high school class and received a full government-funded scholarship to study overseas. That's when everything went downhill. I dropped out during my senior year, returned to my hometown, and was unemployed for 2 years. I worked a minimum wage job for 2 months before receiving an offer from a startup company in another state. I earned a decent salary to pay off the debt from the scholarship, as I didn't finish my studies and had to repay it in full. After a few years, I was appointed as the company's director and earned a substantial income. However, I struggled with depression and psychosis. I attempted suicide and nearly lost my life when the rope I used snapped. I didn't die, which was unfortunate. I quit my job and moved back in with my parents. I took a year to rest, but I attempted suicide a few more times, essentially living in a psych ward, my parents' house, for that year. In 2022, I moved to a new city to start a fresh chapter. I'm now working as a regular white-collar employee from 8 to 5. I'm not striving for anything big. I just want to be happy and content with life. Story 59. I hit a child with a bat in gym class 2 weeks before graduation. They reduced my grade to a B+, costing me the position of valedictorian. My self-esteem was entirely based on having the highest academic achievement, so it crushed me. I went off to college feeling shaken, which triggered the onset of a bipolar episode that lasted 10 years. I dropped out because I didn't even know who I was anymore. I fell off the face of the earth. Took me a long time to claw my way out of it. I'm in my 40s now and am doing well. Thank you. Story 60. He attended an Ivy League school, moved back home, and became an electrician. He had a unique family dynamic, so it wasn't necessarily a matter of being overly book smart. Story 61. I am an alcoholic living in Mexico as a real estate agent. You can interpret the positive and negative aspects as you wish. Story 62. She received a full scholarship through Annapolis and is currently considering a promotion to the rank of 06. She is also a potential candidate for the position of captain of the future USS John Basilone when it launches. Story 63. He obtained his General Educational Development Certificate at 16, which caused significant gossip at his school. He then spent several years working various manual labor jobs and drinking heavily. Eventually, he returned to school for philosophy and secured a high-paying job at Tesla after college. In his 30s, he discovered he was autistic following another extensive burnout cycle. Recently, he started an artificial intelligence automation agency and has never been happier. Story 64. Left college and joined the Air Force. He got married, but his wife experienced a mental breakdown and drove to another state, leaving their daughter at the airport with some people who worked there. He found her, got her help, and brought his family home. Things improved and they had another child. He seems happy. This is what I gathered from reading the news articles. He was my best friend for years. Then he just disappeared. I hope he is well. Story 65. They co-founded a website featuring a humorous character. They invested in various companies, wrote a book, and fell in love with and married one of the greatest female athletes of all time. They have a beautiful family and continue to invest in new opportunities, living their best life, as we all should. Story 66. It's interesting how many comments are about the valedictorian or salutatorian, and almost none are about the individuals like Will Hunting. Story 67. Most of the smartest people I know became doctors, lawyers, computer engineers, or business professionals with job titles that are unclear to those outside their industry. Story 68. The valedictorian of my class was accepted into Harvard but failed out during freshman year after discovering drugs for the first time. They became heavily involved with cannabis and now successfully owns several marijuana stores in Colorado. Story 69. He skipped 4 grades in middle school and also passed my class. He now has significant scientific research published and a university that goes above and beyond to support his work. I am proud of that student. Story 70. He became an elementary school teacher. 10 years later, he released a children's book. I definitely thought he would be president, but I am glad that people like him are teaching and influencing the next generation. Story 71. Bro was a triple major in mathematics, physics, and computer science, while I was an art major. I used to infuriate him by beating him in chess, and I could do it with my eyes closed. Years later, I was deep into a career in video games and went to get some new glasses. Guess who was the lens crafter at the store? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.